Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Access Blockbusters Pod. It is episode 18. Welcome back to another episode. It is so good to have you guys here. Have you guys on the Access Blockbusters YouTube channel, or on Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify, wherever you decide to listen to the Access Blockbusters Pod. Welcome, one and all. It is great to have you here. As always, the Access Blockbusters Pod is sponsored by the subscribe button and the like button. I know, it's crazy, but if you wouldn't mind just hitting subscribe and giving the video a like on YouTube, and also writing some reviews on Apple Podcasts if you enjoy, that would be greatly appreciated, very much appreciated. Again, just, this is my chance to sit down once a week and spend an hour just talking about what happened in the past week with movies and TV shows and all the good stuff, So yeah, that's what's going on this week. And without further ado, we have a lot to get to, actually. Today is going to be pretty exciting. I mean, it's going to be Miss Marvel, it's going to be Umbrella Academy, and it's going to be Thor. And that's it. I mean, but it's a lot to talk about. So yeah, I'm really excited about it, and let's just get into it, shall we? And before we dive into those reviews, I wanted to, I don't know, maybe do a little bit of a review roundup, or not a review roundup, but a news roundup of last week. These little things that, are announced here and there, that won't be part of the actual, main segments of the podcast, but things that I just wanted to touch upon. First of all, I did want to say that Comic-Con is coming up. Comic-Con is indeed coming up. It is in just over a week. And, yeah, I think that we will be getting a lot of announcements from Mr. Feige himself about the future of the MCU and in Phase 5. Whether or not that's an entire roadmap, which I desperately hope it is. I desperately hope we're getting a roadmap, and we'll talk about that more later with Thor: Love and Thunder. But regardless, I think that it'll be exciting nonetheless. I think we will probably get our first trailer of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. We will probably get a What If Season 2 trailer. We will probably get another She-Hulk trailer. And who knows, maybe the Halloween special trailer, if anything. And yeah. So, guys, I think what I'll be doing is, just like I did with the Disney Investors Day, was it? A couple years ago, 2020, where they just dropped all the announcements on us. Things like Fantastic Four, things like Ahsoka, things like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Still one of the best performing videos I've ever had on this channel, over 10,000 views. And you guys seem to enjoy that content. And at the very least, it brings a lot of new people into the Access Blockbusters community, Access Blockbusters crew, when I do that. So I think if I'm able to, look out on the channel, keep your eyes peeled. And I'll be doing my best to upload videos and give breaking news and highlights and things like that for those of you who can't attend Comic-Con, or who don't want to, watch a live blog, which I will happily do for you. Be sure to stay tuned on the channel, and I will probably be reporting on all the major announcements that are going on during San Diego Comic-Con, at least for the MCU. I don't know about other stuff. Maybe DC as well. We'll see. We'll see if they announce anything important. Yeah, so with that out of the way, let me just quickly go through the news for the past week and see if there's anything worth talking about, just ever so briefly, before we get into our three main reviews. So let's take a look here. I'm just going through a list of things that I have. I mean, really, there's not a ton of things to look at. I do want to mention that sadly James Caan passed away this past week. It's, for me, it's not The Godfather, really, or it's not Misery that I think about when I think about James Caan. It's really Elf. And Elf is really just one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a beautiful movie. It's a funny movie, heartwarming. It's rewatchable. Every Christmas I try to rewatch that movie, and just very sad that he's passed away, and he's left such a great legacy here. So yeah, just wanted to say that, and hope, rest in peace, James Caan. And yeah, it's really sad. Anyways, on to happier things. I don't think a lot of things happened this past week. I think we're kind of gearing up for Comic-Con, which is exciting. I think the only other big thing really is that Captain America 4 has a director, and I forgot his name. Let me look it up quick. I believe it is Yes, I thought it was Julian, but Julius Ona or Anna. It will be the director of Captain America 4, who directed the Cloverfield Paradox, which I have heard nothing but bad things about, which is not a good thing. But he also, and let me just make sure that this is true here, because I know he directed something else that was pretty good, and I can't find it. Give me a second. Sorry, guys. I know this is really not what you guys signed up for when you yeah, it was Loose. Yeah, I haven't personally heard of the films before. I've heard of the Cloverfield Paradox, and I've heard it's not very good, but Kevin Feige knows what he's doing usually, and yeah, Julius Ona, I am looking forward to seeing what he has to give to the MCU. And other than that, guys, I mean, not a ton of things. Like Madam Web is filming. Cool, I guess. She-Hulk and Andor are coming up. I did want to say also, I'm not going to make this its own segment, but just before we get into the Umbrella Academy, which is up first, I did finish seeing The Boys season 3. And again, I don't think that my audience here is really... I don't know that, actually. I just don't know. So you'll have to let me know in the comments. I will absolutely do a separate segment on next week's episode reviewing The Boys season 3. But if you're interested at all, please let me know, because I don't... The show obviously is very graphic and very violent, and I try to keep my YouTube channel as sort of, all ages friendly as possible. Obviously, there's a certain demographic, usually in the late teens, early 20s, is what I've been seeing on the channel, which is awesome. And yeah, but I just just in case, again, try to keep everything as open as possible. So I will just say, though, in light of, and this is the only thing I'll say about The Boys season 3, I think it's the best season so far, by a lot, actually, by a lot. I know a lot of people love 1 and 2. I thought 1 and 2 were good, but I think 3 really leaned into a lot of the things that 1 and 2 did really well, and just exploded. Did just an amazing job. All that to say, though, is that in light of these Disney Plus shows in the MCU and in Star Wars, it's baffling to me that somebody who's worked on a lot of Netflix shows or HBO shows or whatever, or Amazon Prime shows, is not consulting with Disney and Kevin Feige, because this 6-part thing is not working. And it's astounding, because I watched Stranger Things, and I watched The Boys, and I watched The Umbrella Academy, and I didn't love every single moment of every one of those shows, even though I think all 3 of those particular seasons of those series were among the strongest of those series. They're not perfect by any means, not even Stranger Things 4, which I adore. But they are just leaps and bounds ahead of anything that the MCU has done on Disney Plus, and it's disappointing. It is disappointing when you see something like that. So again, I just we can make a separate video at some point talking about the problems of the MCU Disney Plus shows and why it's not working, and it's a problem. We'll talk about that with Miss Marvel, but first I want to talk about the Umbrella Academy. But again, I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the season, and if you guys want to see more, hear more, let me know in the comments down below. All right, let's talk about the Umbrella Academy. So I actually did a review of the Umbrella Academy season 2 during the pandemic, right around just like a couple months into my YouTube channel. You can check that out way back then. I'm sure it's a terrible video. Just kidding. I love all my videos, but anyways, you get the point. And the Umbrella Academy was a show that was recommended to me by a friend, who she really loved the show, and I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. It's superheroes. It's based on a comic book, and I know some YouTubers really like the show, so I gave it a shot. And I'll be honest, seasons 1 and 2 were not my favorite. I think that the character work in the show is pretty decent. I think that, you grow attached to the characters and learn to like them and love them. I wasn't a big fan of the story, though, to be quite honest with you. I think that the story is okay. It was fine. And it had some intrigue and some mystery, but at the end of the day, it was just kind of, it was like, okay, yeah. It was fun. It was intriguing. So yeah, and I said in my season 2 review, I believe all of this years ago, that right back where we started, right? That's the title of episode 1 of season 2, and that's the title of my review the subtitle of my review. And I say that because the story feels very circular in a very self-aware way. Obviously, we keep going back to apocalypses and things like that. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. It feels like we're just resetting the same environment with the same characters, and so seasons 1 and 2 kind of felt very similar to me, just in different settings, obviously. But not a lot was revealed about the lore, as much as I would like, at least. And we'll talk about the lore in just a second. So this is your spoiler warning. I'll cap off this sort of non-spoiler introduction, and if you're interested in the Umbrella Academy, I will say that if you enjoy superheroes, if you enjoy comic books, and if you enjoy sort of dark humor, and it's not very gory, it's not very violent, it's not like The Boys or anything like that, but it's darker, obviously, but it's also more darkly humorous. So it's not like Logan, it's not like that kind of dark. But if you enjoy these kinds of things, I would recommend giving season 1 a try. It's very interesting, and I don't think it's a bad watch. And hopefully you would enjoy seasons 1 enough to get to season 3. And it's a recommendation from me. It's not my favorite show of all time, but it's fun. That will end the non-spoiler part of this review. But I want to talk spoilers for those of you who have seen the show. Let's talk about season 3. So in terms of lore, right, one of the questions that I had been asking myself all of season 3, which is 10 episodes, which is great, by the way. Please, everyone, just be 10 episodes if the story is appropriate for that. But anyways, one of the questions that I had going into season 3 was, look, the biggest revelation to me in season 2 is that Reginald Hargreaves is an alien. And I have not read the comic books at all. Let's be clear. I only had watched the show, and so having seen that episode in that hotel or whatever, the banquet or dinner area, where he takes off his face and he's an alien, that to me was the biggest question that needed to get answered. And it's strange to me that the show took so long to get there, and it looks like from the end of season 3 that season 4 will deal with that more, as Reginald Hargreaves becomes a true villain of the show, as he always has been lurking in the shadows as the villain, but I think he will be the true villain of season 4, which is exciting. But I thought, like, this revelation seems too big to just ignore, and it took till about episode 8, I believe, for him to kind of reveal that with him quote unquote killing Luther, and then him coming back, obviously, and then Allison cutting part of his face off, and you get to see kind of the alien anatomy, which is kind of terrifying. I also want to say, by the way, if you guys will already have noticed this if you've been watching the episode, I apologize for bringing this up so late in the video, so late in the podcast, if you're watching this on YouTube, but I just didn't have the opportunity, didn't have the time to prepare the slideshow beforehand, so I'll just be throwing up some images throughout the segment, just to give something new to look at. Apologies again. And I hope that I do find a good picture of Reginald Hargreaves, because I feel like this is the most interesting character of the show, and they haven't done a lot with him. They've done a lot more with him, but it still feels like a tease. It's like at the end of season 3, you have him kind of going, "Hey, I have a bigger plan than you think," and it kind of manifests itself in him taking over the city in season 4 in this new time, or the end of season 3 into season 4 in this new timeline. But again, it kind of leaves me wanting a little bit. So I'm every season of the Umbrella Academy has left me wanting a little bit more than I would have liked, which is okay for the most part. Like shows can, you're supposed to kind of build the intrigue and do all that sort of stuff with your shows and cliffhangers and things like that. Like I get it. But I think that the Umbrella Academy, for me at least, has not been as successful with towing the line of teasing future things, right, in future episodes and future seasons, and wrapping up your own season. I think season 3 was the most successful. Again, I think that season 3 was the best season out of all 3 seasons of the Umbrella Academy so far. But I do think that it's still left me wanting a little bit. I think that Steve Blackman, is that his name, the creator of the series, the television series, has said that season 4 is sort of his final one that he had planned, and I'm hoping that we get a lot more conclusions and a lot more answers to our questions in season 4. So that's that about Hargreaves, but Reginald Hargreaves. But let's talk about all the siblings. I think that with given the real life events that happened, I think that the transition from Vanya to Victor was handled very well within the show. I feared that it would become a distraction there are a lot of ways that it could have been messy. Let's just say, in a lot of different ways. But I think that the way that the show handled it was good, and so I have no complaints there. As for Victor's character, I was never the biggest fan of Victor and his character and when he was Vanya in the past 2 seasons. I never liked the character all that much, and to have him kind of be the center of all these apocalyptic events was fine. But again, I didn't mind that Victor took a little bit of a backseat in this season, although very important, obviously, with the things with Harlan, of course. So yeah, I think Elliot Page did a fine job with the role. Obviously, there were some emotional moments that I thought were done very well. So that was good. One of my least favorite characters. We can talk about the Sparrows actually as a collective. I think that the Sparrows in general didn't come off very well to me. I don't think that they were that. I feel like a lot of them were meant to be more likable than they actually were, but a lot of them just came off as jerks. And so I'm not even going to talk really about Alfonso or Christopher or Marcus or whatever. They, very inconsequential characters as it turns out, as they were killed very early into the season. But I mean, the couple of the main ones obviously were Ben and Sloane. And look, it's been a while, right? I've only seen Umbrella Academy seasons 1 and 2 only once, and I don't really plan on seeing them again. I don't remember Ben being played by Justin Min being that unlikable. And I know it's intentional that he's unlikable, but I just think that Justin's performance was not quite it didn't really translate for me. And I think that might be a subjective thing, but the way that he talks through gritted teeth the whole season, like it not gritted teeth, but he's enunciating every syllable, and it I don't know. It just didn't really work for me as a character. I found myself I didn't really want to see Ben a lot. And I think that Ben is a very three-dimensional character, and was a little disappointing in that regard. I think Sloane was fine. I think Sloane was Genesis Rodriguez, right? I believe that's her name. I think she was fine. Obviously, she and Luther had a lot to do. We can talk about Tom Hopper. I think that Luther had a better arc in this season, obviously being, killed by Reginald Hargraves, but I think those two didn't have a lot to do in the show other than trying to unite the families together, which is important, obviously. So I think that those two were fine. Just to kind of quickly go down the rest of them, because I don't want to spend all day just listing off Umbrella Academy siblings. I think that 5 was fine as well. I think Aiden Gallagher always just gives the same kind of I don't care, but also I do care sarcasm and cynicism, which is good. It works well. Who else am I missing? Klaus, I think, actually had the most to do. I think Klaus was really interesting, and sort of his arc with Reginald Hargraves and seeking his approval. I think Klaus actually was pretty good throughout the show. Diego, I had also never really liked Diego that much, and I actually really didn't like Lila in season 2 at all. So while it was an improvement, the way that those two characters were written in this season, with Diego trying to, and Lila being pregnant and all that sort of stuff, still not a huge fan of those characters, honestly. Which is fine. I don't have to be a big fan of every single character in every single show, not like Stranger Things, where I am a big fan of every single character. So there's that. I didn't love them. I didn't love Stan either. I think that subplot was kind of meandering and all that. I'm saving Allison for last, because I want to talk about Allison. I think Allison was really interesting. I think she is the only one that I missed. If I missed a sibling, I apologize. That would be embarrassing. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so let's talk about Allison. I think Allison actually had the craziest and I think most appropriate arc in this show. And, I think there's a lot to compare here with Wanda Maximoff and the MCU, right? Spoilers for Doctor Strange 2. Kind of grief and the chance to have it back, I think both actresses played that arc very well. I think, obviously, comparing to WandaVision and Doctor Strange put together, I think if Doctor Strange had been a TV show, you would have gotten to see a lot more of that manifesting. Obviously, Wanda's arc, and just like the grief with the knowledge that you've done everything you can and you had to let it go, but there is still a chance to bring them back at the end. That's why Allison makes the deal with Reginald Hargraves. I I think that that's a really smart way to take the character. I think that, her making the villain turn, and I'm going to assume she's going to be the villain of season 4, at least one of them, her and Reginald. I don't think it's a coincidence that she and Reg were colluding towards the end of season 3. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But I think that Emmy, I forget her last name, but Emmy does a great job. The actress who plays Allison does a great job in just presenting this hurt and this not even guilt. It's not guilt. She doesn't have guilt for anything. It's more just like the heel turn almost, right? I think she does a great job with that. So yeah, those are the characters. I think that the show really hinges on the characters. As for the storyline, I think that, there are only so many ways you can do a world-ending apocalypse, and that's fine. I also think that I think the whole Hotel Obsidian thing, or Oblivion thing, I feel like the show was a little bit disoriented, and I think that it's interesting because watching each individual episode, I enjoyed each individual episode. I think that the showrunners did a good job of giving each individual episode its own arc and its own narrative purpose. But then when you kind of look back and take a step back and watch the whole season, you kind of go, it's really just about this Kugelblitz. And, at the end of the day, then they go to the project Hotel Oblivion, and they enter this portal, and then there's this monster, these guardian monster guys who are terrifying because they're bugs, and I don't know what they are. And ultimately, it was a little disappointing. Although the finale, obviously, I think the finale was great. But yeah, I think that, the story of season 3 was not my favorite, but I think that a lot of the stuff that was done within the story was done really well. Like the stuff with Klaus and Reginald Hargraves, and I think the last couple episodes in Hotel Oblivion was good. I just think that how we got there was a little bit messy. Again, speaking of just sequences that I will treasure forever in my heart, like with Stranger Things with Eddie and his guitar solo, a sequence that I have rewatched already numerous times is the Footloose sequence in episode 1. How awesome is that sequence? If you're still listening and you haven't seen The Umbrella Academy for whatever reason, it won't mean as much to you because you don't know the characters, but just go on YouTube and watch the Footloose sequence from season 3. It is one of the best sequences of television I've seen in just ever. It's so funny and it's so fun and jarring in a good way. And just like with Eddie's guitar solo, it just I want to rewatch those sequences over and over and over and over again. Good music, right? Good music in shows does a lot, does a lot. So yeah, I think season 3 was good. I definitely enjoyed it. I think the most out of all of the seasons thus far. I think it at least had some sort of focus towards the end that we were getting somewhere, although it kind of took a while to get there. And I think that season 4 is setting itself up to be probably the most focused out of the 4 seasons. So I'm excited for season 4. I'm excited to see where the cast goes. Obviously, they don't have superpowers anymore. That should be interesting. And yeah, I think that, this show is keeping me interested enough that I'm excited for another season. Although, again, I won't be counting down the days just like I will be with Stranger Things 5, per se. But still, it was a good show, and I enjoyed watching it. It took me a while to get through it. I don't think that was the show's fault. I think that was just Stranger Things and other things coming up. But yeah, I'm glad I finished it. So there is that. All right, guys, another thing that wrapped up recently is Miss Marvel. So Miss Marvel is the latest Disney Plus show. It is the 36th MCU property, and I know a lot of you guys want to include Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter. I want to say for the record, whenever I do my rankings, and I will do another ranking at some point soon, I have a feeling that Kevin Feige will delineate very clearly when Phase 4 is ending at Comic-Con. I hope so. I don't think it's Thor, Love and Thunder. I also don't think it's She-Hulk. I have a feeling it might be maybe Fantastic Four. I think that's very appropriate, actually. That makes sense, right? End Phase 4 with Fantastic Four. I think that makes a lot of sense. So that, I think, will be very fun. That's my prediction, by the way, guys, for those of you who are listening to this segment, that Kevin Feige will announce the end of Phase 4 and the beginning of Phase 5, and maybe the end of Phase 5, and Fantastic Four will be the end of Phase 4. That's just my prediction. Anyways. It makes too much sense, right? Anyways. But yeah, Miss Marvel was a show that I had not been looking forward to at all before the trailer came out. I saw the trailer. Looked fun. And I went into the show, obviously, as always, with optimism, as I always do. And I loved the first 3 episodes. I loved the coming of age story. I loved the exploration of a Muslim Pakistani family living in the United States in Jersey City, and the kind of like the racial undertones and the social commentary that, not racial undertones. What do I mean by that? Like sort of the commentary on race relations and politics in the United States today. I think that was done very cleverly in the midst of a high school coming of age story with a charming young lead in Aman Vellani. What a wonderful performance she has given thus far in the series. I love the stylistic choices of the text bubbles and the graffiti on the walls, and just her discovering who she really is, and the family dynamics with Muniba. Is that the mother's name? And Yusuf, I believe, is the father's name. Let me look that up. I want to make sure I get that right. I believe I spoke the other day, and let's see, Miss Marvel cast. I just want to make sure I get these names right, because I am not Pakistani. So I just want to make sure. There's Bruno. There's Kareem and Kamran. That's always confused me. Yeah, Muniba and Yusuf. Yeah, I mean, those 2 actors. And also, again, I don't want to mess this up, Amir. Yeah, Amir, the brother's name. I love the brother as well. I love his wife. I think that the show cast all these characters so impeccably well. And I thought the first 3 episodes were just fantastic. Now, the clandestines, they weren't my favorite in episodes 1, 2, and 3. But I didn't think they detracted that much from the show. In fact, I even think that Najma, the mother of this is Kamran, yes, Kamran, was good in episode 3. But again, she kind of turned into a villain. But I thought, it's fine. Like episode 3, the ending was fine. Like with the fight in the wedding banquet hall. The wedding scene, by the way, is awesome. It's just awesome. Okay, so then we get into episode 4, and we get into episode 5. And now looking back at the show as a six-part series, it's very clear to me now. Like I said in the last episode, my last Miss Marvel review, episode 5 and episode 4, I don't dislike them because of the elements of going to Pakistan. Like I said, it's the combination of going to Pakistan, which I loved. I loved exploring the culture of Pakistan and really seeing another side of the MCU and another side of the world, quite frankly. But like I said, it felt very jarring within this show because the show had been very grounded. It had been very, high school focused, high school centric, and now looking back, I can very confidently say that those 2 episodes feel like 2 episodes of season 2, maybe where Kamala goes to Pakistan and has another threat to face. So that was disappointing to me because those 2 episodes felt crazy rushed. For any of you who think I'm not going to blame you if you like those episodes at all. Again, everything, all these episodes, it hits you in a different way, and that's fine. So if you like these 2 episodes, I'm not trying to discredit that at all. But I'm saying that they didn't work for me. And part of the reason was because you introduced all these new characters into the show. Like Kareem and his mentor, I forget his name. Walid, I'm going to mispronounce it. I'm going to forget it, so I just want to make sure. Again, I don't want to be disrespectful. I want to honor the cast. Yeah, Walid. So, again, I apologize. I am doing my best, but anyways. Apologies if I've inadvertently offended anybody with my mispronunciations. I do sincerely apologize for that. Anyways, yeah, so those characters were introduced so rapidly and they were so rushed that it was really hard to care about them, and I do appreciate the backstory with Aisha and the Bengal and stuff like that. It just felt like a different show, and not a good one, in my opinion. Not, at least in the context of the first 3 episodes that we'd been given, So there's that. And then we get into episode 6. And also, by the way, in episode 5, the clandestines, who had been the villains of season 1, disintegrated. For no reason. Because, for all this talk about the Noor dimension kind of trying to overtake America or the world or whatever, spoilers ahead for episode 6, none of that happened. And so, as I went into episode 6, I was like, okay, what are we going to get here? Here's what I'll say about episode 6. the parts of episode 6 that tie back into episodes 4 and 5 don't work still. They still don't work. I'm sorry to whoever plays the character of Kamran. I don't think it's his fault. I think that Kamran is just so poorly written, along with the rest of the clandestines, that it doesn't work. It feels rushed. It feels out of nowhere. And also Kamran was gonna implode with the energy or whatever, like halfway through the episode 6, and then he's fine at the end, and he meets Kareem. Two characters I do not care about at all in the slightest, at all, which is disappointing to me. That they're going to choose to focus on that. And also just skipping ahead to the resolution of the episode. I mean, like, Miss Marvel, Kamala is like, hey, let's, go to the docks, go to the harbor. Someone will meet you there. And that's it. Like, we don't see him going to the harbor. We just kind of see him disappear, and that's the end of the episode. That's effectively the resolution of the episode. So again, all the stuff from episodes 4 and 5 don't work at all. Everything else that ties back to episodes 1, 2, and 3 work tremendously. The finale in itself, as a standalone episode, and as an episode that ties back to episodes 1, 2, and 3, is awesome. It is an awesome episode. I wrote this in my community page shortly after I watched the episode. I said that this is a great finale for a different show than what we've been given in episodes 4 and 5. There is a great show of episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then a different, version of episodes 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7, like 4 extra episodes sandwiched in between the finale and episode 3 that make this the best Disney Plus show that Marvel has done. Better than WandaVision. Unfortunately, instead of that, we got episodes 4 and 5, and then we got a finale that felt kind of rushed because it didn't really tie up everything together that it had promised to, it had been promising to tie up. Which is a bummer, right? It's a bummer because this show, while it is my second favorite Disney Plus MCU show, I think pretty squarely over Moon Knight right now. It still is not great. It needed 2 more episodes, I think. Like, I needed an episode 4 in between the actual episode 3 and 4, and I needed an episode 6 in between the actual episode 5 and 6, I think. It just needed a couple more episodes. But that being said, like I said, this episode in itself is awesome, and I don't think it's any surprise that it is because it stuck to the style and the tone of episodes 1, 2, and 3. You get a lot of the stylistic imagery again with the the planning on the chalkboard. You get Bruno back and Nakia back, and I love those 2 characters. They were great. They were great in this series, and you felt their absence in episodes 4 and 5, which is disappointing. But again, they're here, and I just had a great time with the finale. I love the line. I think that it's interesting that Damage Control is the villain of this series, which I think they could have been the villain from the beginning. Honestly, you didn't need the clandestines in this series. Honestly, that's my problem with Miss Marvel. I just realized now. Just take out the entire clandestine part of this show. Make it its own season 2, after the Marvels or whatever, and just have it be Damage Control. Have it be Damage Control trying to find this, enhanced individual, and she's trying to figure out her powers. That's really what I think the show should have been. Alas, anyways, you get that Agent Deaver, again, who is appropriately annoying and infuriating, which is what the character is supposed to be. Agent Cleary, it seems like, is a little bit more level-headed. The guy from Spider-Man: No Way Home, although he is still kind of a jerk, but a little bit more level-headed. But yeah, you get this whole awesome, fun montage action scene. In the high school. Zoe is back for no reason, I think. I was a little surprised by that, but again, like I think the humor of the show kind of returns to where it had been before. I laughed a few times throughout the episode. I love the line where Kamala is trying to reveal to her parents that she is Miss Marvel, and Muniba, the mom, is like, "No, I already told them." And I thought that was so funny. That was so well done. I love the line where they go to the Damage Control goes to the mosque, and the guy's like, he says this really profound quote or whatever, and the agent is kind of like brushing it aside in a very dismissive and frankly not a great way. And the guy's like, actually, that was Abraham Lincoln. And I thought that was so funny. I don't know, that was like the funniest line to me in the entire episode. Also, Bruno dancing. Didn't know I needed that in my life, but I guess I do, because that was hilarious, and I thought that was so funny. Again, everything just with Kamran and Kamala, I didn't buy. I didn't buy the emotional sort of part in the little energy dome or whatever. And to be quite honest, one of the other complaints I have about the finale is that the CGI looks not great in certain parts. I don't think her powers look really good yet. I hope they're better in the Marvels with a bigger budget maybe and more time, because I don't think the CGI for her powers looks all that good. It looks very 3D cartoonish in my opinion. Maybe that's just me. So I'm hoping that they figure that out. But yeah, I mean, I love the action. I love the sort of conflict. I love how accepting her parents are of her now. I love that as well. And yeah, I mean, the episode kind of wraps up with her kind of flying, jumping away, and the city of Jersey City. It's kind of that Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Man, the city of New York protecting Peter Parker kind of moment, and it's great. And so we get the wrap up of the episode. I'll talk about the two really big revelations, obviously. One being at the end of this episode, and one being in the mid-credit scene. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, the other two things I wanted to talk about was going into this series, right? One of the things that's been clear to me from Phase 4 of the MCU, and I think it's undeniable, is that the MCU is now trending more towards the comic books. At least visually and more story-wise as well, I think. If you haven't noticed, and I think it's worth pointing out, every single MCU show, even some of the movies, I think, but more so the shows. I think the shows really have really, really delved into comic accurate looks for the characters. You've seen hints of it with Vision and Wanda and their classic Halloween costumes, and even Wanda's actual costume is pretty close to that. It's much closer, at least, than it used to be. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, obviously, Captain America, Sam Wilson. It's much brighter. It's much more white. It's brighter. It's much closer to the Captain America costume in the comics. Loki, you have the what's his name? Classic Loki, Richard E. Grant, obviously. What else is there? Moon Knight, obviously, great costume. Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, and Hawkeye wearing the purple as well, much closer to the comics, obviously. And so I had seen set photos of Miss Marvel before seeing the show, and I had seen the costume, and obviously the costume was in the trailers, right? And I go, this is kind of absurd. Like there is believability in the Sam Wilson kind of brightly colored Avengers costume that I go, it's not great. I would prefer a much more sleeker armor based suit, like even the one that John Walker was wearing, I think was much better. But okay. But I saw the pictures of Kamala Khan in her comics accurate costume, and I go, I know this is a part of the character, but it just doesn't look like it's going to translate well onto the screen. What I will say about that is that there are moments in the show where I look at the costume and go, this is very clearly, it looks like cosplay. But then the show does a really good job of explaining why that is, that each different part of the costume is sort of given to her. And it is sort of cosplay in a sense. And I love how the mother gives her the costume at the end. That part to me is just amazing. I love that. And so it kind of makes me go, okay, you know what? Like, I don't think it translates super well. It's very, it's bright. It's comic booky, right? With a scarf but you know what? I can buy it. The other thing that I was a little hesitant about, and it serves me right, is the name. How do you come up with the name Miss Marvel organically? I don't know. Frankly, I don't even know how they came up with Captain Marvel. I don't think that was mentioned in the movie. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I think they just start calling her Captain Marvel at some point. I don't know when or where that is, but anyways. And I thought, okay, well, like you have Moon Knight, which makes some sense. Hawkeye, whatever, Captain America. Miss Marvel, it was always a little bit of a stretch, and She-Hulk is also a little bit of a stretch to me. I know that that's supposed to be satirical and spoof and parody and whatever. But I was like, how are you going to get to the conclusion of Miss Marvel as the name? And they sold me. The conversation that Kamala has with her dad is one of the... Again, it is emblematic of the best parts of this show. It is beautiful. It is heartfelt. I don't know if this is... I'm sure it's true, obviously. It's in the show. That Kamala means Marvel in Urdu, I believe. I love that conversation that he has with her, and he says, you've always been our Miss Marvel, and I go, I'm sold, that's it, that's, it goes to show you how a well-written show can really pull almost anything off, so I really was a big fan of that, and obviously let's get to the two big reveals of the show. And the first one left me gasping because I thought, oh, maybe. So when Bruno started talking at the end of the show, obviously, I thought he was going to say you're an Inhuman. Like, there's something inhuman about you. And I was like, yeah. Like, tie into, her comic book origins or whatever, and maybe bring in the Inhumans or whatever. And then he says, like a mutation. And the X-Men 97 theme starts playing. And I got chills. My mouth was open. I was silently screaming in my room when I saw that. Yeah, that's crazy. Kamala Khan is a mutant. Kamala Khan is the first identified mutant in the MCU. That is crazy. I have no attachment to the comic books, so I'm sorry if that upsets you, that she's not an Inhuman. She didn't get it from the Terrigen Mist or whatever. Sorry, but I don't really care because she's a mutant. That's crazy. Like, you will probably see her after the Marvels in an X-Men, something X-Men related. That's so exciting. For the first time, really since, I don't know, actually, since, it's actually been a while since I've really been excited for the future of the MCU, like I have been with this show. Because, like, look, Moon Knight, very self-contained. Thor, Love and Thunder, we'll talk about in just a second, very self-contained. Doctor Strange, surprisingly very self-contained. Spider-Man No Way Home, pretty exciting, but also just teasing Doctor Strange, which it didn't really tie into at all. Eternals, kind of weird what they were setting up. Hawkeye, kind of strange what they were setting up. Shang-Chi, actually, I was very excited for the future because, you teased that the Ten Rings have this crazy technology and all that sort of stuff. So I Shang-Chi and Ms. Marvel have really gotten me excited for the future of the MCU thus far. And I don't think it's any surprise that it's dealing with the same circle of characters, right? With Bruce Banner and with Carol Danvers and sort of the pseudo-Avengers, whatever they are right now. I think that part of the MCU I'm really excited for going forward. But yeah, when they said mutant, I was like, oh, this is crazy. Now, whether or not, because again, it begs the question, there must have been mutants all around, right? Like, the whole time? Where is Professor X been this whole time? Where has Magneto been this whole time? I'm sure that they will explain that in the future, but I'm just so excited and so happy that Kamala Khan gets to be the first identified mutant in the MCU. That is so awesome. I'm so happy about that. And then let's talk about the post-credits scene really quick before we jump into Thor: Love and Thunder. This episode might be a little bit longer. Apologies for that, but I wanted to get through everything that I want to talk about. Carol Danvers shows up. So Kamala gets this signal from the Bengal, and then she kind of like warps into something, and Carol Danvers shows up. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that scene was pretty confusing, but it was good to see Carol again. I can't say that I've said that about a lot of things, but I think that both times she showed up in the post-credit scenes of Shang-Chi and Ms. Marvel, I think I've been actually more excited to see her post-Endgame, because I think Endgame really did a disservice to her character. She was not good in that movie. One of the things I really don't like about Endgame is Carol Danvers, but I'm excited now. Ms. Marvel will return in the Marvels, and I'm going to be honest, I hadn't been looking forward to the Marvels. I said this in my community post, but I love Kamala Khan. I think that Brie Larson is really coming into her own as Carol Danvers, just like how Chris Hemsworth, it took a few movies to come into his own as Thor. I think that Teyonah Parris has the ability to be, to do really well as Monica Rambeau, and Nick Fury will be back, and I'm sure Ben Mendelsohn will be back, and I am just so excited to see what happens. Not so excited. I'm more excited to see what happens in the Marvel. So yeah, as a whole, Ms. Marvel, I think, had 4 awesome episodes and 2 pretty poor episodes. Yeah, it will not rank in the top 10 of the MCU. It very well could have topped WandaVision in a different universe, but it will rank towards the upper echelon, I think, towards the upper half, and I'm very happy about that. I hadn't expected much, but this is my second favorite MCU Disney Plus show. Super happy about that. And with that, let's talk about the other MCU property that came out just recently, Thor: Love and Thunder. So this will be a full spoiler review and discussion. I will be taking questions that I got from the community page. If you guys have questions for upcoming MCU projects like with She-Hulk and with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and if I will be taking questions, I will be posting that on the community page. So check back there, and your question will be featured on the podcast. Your name will be shouted out. and all that sort of stuff. So make sure to check back there. But this will be a full spoiler review and discussion. I'll be talking about a lot of different things about the movie and answering your guys' questions as well. So, Thor: Love and Thunder. Spoilers ahead. You've been warned. I'll start out by saying this. I love Ragnarok. Ragnarok is a top 10 MCU movie for me. I love Ragnarok. It is funny. It is not as... I don't think the serious moments hit as much as they do for other people. When Asgard is destroyed or when Thor loses Odin, I don't think Odin's death really is... I don't think it has the same dramatic weight as I think it was meant to. But I love Thor Ragnarok. I love Jojo Rabbit, one of my favorite movies of that year that it came out. Taika Waititi directing and playing Hitler, of all people, in that film. I think he did a really great job in that, ironically, in a spoofy parody way of Hitler. And I think Taika Waititi is great. He did a great episode of The Mandalorian as well, so I'm super excited about his Star Wars movie. Thor: Love and Thunder, the trailers for Thor: Love and Thunder have looked awesome. Funny, and endearing, maybe even, and scary with Gore the God Butcher, Christian Bale's Gore the God Butcher. And so, I mean, I had every expectation that while I didn't need Thor: Love and Thunder to replicate Thor Ragnarok, I thought it could be to the same level, potentially. It turns out, in my opinion, and this is just my view, so if you love the movie, if you hated the movie, I'm just here to tell you my view. In my view, Thor: Love and Thunder didn't come close to Ragnarok, and that's okay. It didn't need to. However, I think it is also fair to say that Thor: Love and Thunder to me is a disappointing movie. And not just disappointing because it didn't live up to Thor Ragnarok, but because I think it itself, in its truest form, in its best form, based on the story that they gave, could have been a lot better. And I'll talk about why. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Thor: Love and Thunder kind of sits now in the middle towards the bottom. Like the sort of, if 50% is the middle, maybe towards like the 40% of the MCU. Not way down at the bottom, obviously, but... like hovering middle to lower middle of the MCU. And I'll tell you a couple reasons why. First of all, at least for me, and I'll talk about the negatives first, and then I'll talk about all the things that I really liked about the movie. And then we'll take your questions, and then we'll be out of here. But to start off with the negatives, I didn't think the movie was nearly as funny as Thor Ragnarok. And I'm not sure why that is. Comedy is comedy. So I'm just going to say this out, up front, because... this is probably easily the most subjective part of this entire review. Comedy is just so inherently subjective. I was just a little surprised because I love the humor in Ragnarok, and I didn't laugh as much as I did in Ragnarok as in Love and Thunder. Sorry, did I say that wrong? I didn't laugh as much in Love and Thunder as I did in Ragnarok. I think that it's interesting because there are a lot of similar kinds of jokes that are made in Thor: Love and Thunder as they are in Ragnarok. But I think also that it dives a lot deeper into just the sillier slapstick comedy. Sorry, guys, if you can hear things moving around. I just have to plug something in. But anyways, it dives a lot deeper into just this silly, goofy aspect of the character. And for those, for all the people saying Thor is really dumb in this movie, I don't think he's as dumb as the trailers make him look out to be. I think he's funny, and he's not as serious as he used to be. But again, I think that it's a natural progression for the character to me that I buy that. But for whatever reason, the humor for the most part didn't really work for me, which is unfortunate. I don't know why. And the humor is a big part of the movie, obviously. I think the funniest part of the movie is the screaming goats. I love the goats. They're so funny to me. And the whole Stormbreaker Mjolnir thing, being jealous of each other, minus him pouring beer onto Stormbreaker, that part didn't quite work well for me. But whatever, that's fine. I don't know. I didn't find a lot of the movie as funny. I chuckled. Let's just say I chuckled in this movie more than I laughed. So that's one thing up front to note, is like I didn't find the movie as funny, and therefore I probably, that's probably why right off the bat I didn't like it as much as Thor Ragnarok. But to me, this movie also had a balancing problem. And I said this immediately after I came out of the movie, and I still maintain this to this day. I've only seen it once. I've seen it about a week ago. This movie should have been longer. And not just arbitrarily longer, but I think that this movie needed specific aspects that it was missing to be inserted in, and it could have done with an extra 10, 15, 20 minutes of runtime. Here is specifically what I think this movie needed. This movie needed, I think, Jane to reveal to Thor that she had cancer right from the beginning. I think that having that emotional dread and weight throughout the movie allows you to still crack the jokes and whatever at Omnipotent City or whatever, but it carries that weight from the beginning until the end, right? And I think that having it the way that it is now, it kind of is just like Jane is like, I have cancer, and Thor's like, oh, and he turns serious for a second, and then it's like, as sad as this makes me, I didn't feel anything when Jane died. I know a lot of people did, but it was because I felt something missing. I guess I'm just interweaving things I liked and didn't like. That's what I'm doing, I guess. I loved the backstory and the flashbacks with Thor and Jane. I loved that. I loved that the Taika fleshed out their character and their romance. It felt so much more real. It's so much more true to life, as a real relationship and a breakup. I loved that part of the movie. I have no complaints about that. And I think that I just would have felt a lot more if Jane had told Thor that she had cancer earlier on. Because I think that there are really serious parts of the movie that I think just needed to be balanced in there a little bit more earlier on. So there's that thing. I needed more of gore. I've always said, right, there's a difference between a good performance and a good character. When you get both, it is rare. It is welcome, especially in the MCU and especially in the MCU villains catalog. But it is rare, but it is welcome. And you get things like Killmonger. You get Thanos, you get Vulture. Good characters, good performances. Christian Bale is Christian Bale. He's awesome. He gave a great performance. I still think this character, while better than most of the other Thor villains, which isn't saying a lot in my opinion, I needed to see more. And I've always said this about the Thor villains. I think that Hela, a lot of people think Hela's a great villain. I disagree. I think Hela's a pretty poor to average villain. And the only reason that it's saved is because Cate Blanchett is giving the performance of her life. Not the performance of her life. She's given other awesome performances, but a great performance in that film. I say the same thing about Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull. He's a Nazi. That's fine. Good villain. That's fine. Doesn't mean it's fine that he's a Nazi. It's fine that it's fine that he gave a good performance as the Nazi character Johann Schmidt. But the character is not a good character. It's just a flat villain, right? And I think that if you had seen another scene of Christian Bale murdering gods, but also in that scene feeling that remorse for his daughter, because we'll talk about the daughter thing at the end, the love thing at the end. I think that's cute. I think it's fine. I think it's cool that Thor and his daughter are going to be a team now. I have a lot of questions. We can get to that in a little bit. But anyways. But I would have felt a lot more when she came back if we had seen another scene with him, with Gore, just grieving the loss of his daughter and feeling that emotional weight. I have no problems with the end of the film in itself. I just don't feel like it was earned, if that makes sense. The whole wishing to eternity portion of the film, where Thor is grieving Jane's death and all that sort of stuff. So there's that. Now with Thor's daughter, I have a lot of questions about the character. Obviously it's cute that it was Chris Hemsworth's daughter, and they had great chemistry. Obviously that was cute and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, I just have why does she have superpowers all of a sudden, and why and what and how? And I think that character kind of being inserted at the end of the film. I love the callback to Love and Thunder. I think that's great. Does she have a name? I don't know. But I needed a little bit more explanation into her character at the end, I think. That's all. So again, like I said, the film had the bare bones. Not the bare bones. A lot of the, like 70% to be that Thor Ragnarok level film. And I hate to keep comparing it to Thor Ragnarok. That's not what I want to do here. But it's just that I think the film needed 20 more minutes of interspersed scenes at very specific points that if I had seen this cut of the film and we still had the time and the money to do reshoots, which I don't think that was possible at that point. But let's just say I was Kevin Feige and I saw this cut and we still had the actors lined up to do reshoots. I would have suggested all of those things to them, to Taika to do. And I think it would have made it a much better film. Let's talk about all the things I did like. Thor. Love Thor. I think Thor is great, as always. I think Chris Hemsworth, I think he will be an Avenger for a long time to come. And I think that was fun. He did a great job, as always, with the serious moments and with the funny moments, as he always does. Natalie Portman as Jane. And like I said, their relationship, Thor and Jane, best it's ever been. Best it's ever been, by far. I think she did a great job. She's an Oscar-winning, Academy Award-nominated actress. She's brilliant. I think winning. Oscar, Academy Award-winning actress. She is awesome as Jane. I think that her transition into the Mighty Thor was a little quick, and I think some of the lines were a little cheesy, intentionally so, but still kind of iffy there. But, like the scene where they're kind of planning what to do, and she's like, well, let's bring the rainbow, and they make a joke out of it, but it still kind of came off a little flat and whatever. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Not a big deal. Valkyrie's great, as always. Korg is fun, as always. I think Zeus is so funny. So I loved Zeus in this film. I think that, for what it's worth, I know a lot of people, won't love Zeus in this film, but I think that he was great. But yeah, I think that most of the characters were really well done. Obviously, the goats were awesome. The visuals, the scene at the Shadow Realm, so cool. One of the most visually stunning scenes. I'm going to rewatch that over and over again, I'm sure, when it comes out. One of the most visually stunning scenes in an MCU film. Loved it. Loved it. The Guardians themselves were fine, I think. They were fun. That's another thing. If you didn't want the film to be longer, though, I actually think the Guardians of the Galaxy should have been cut out entirely from the film. That might be unpopular. They serve no purpose in the film, honestly. I think the Guardians should have been cut out entirely from the film. So that's just my thought on that, in terms of balancing. But I think they themselves were fun. They were fine. What else is there? I think that the stuff with the kids is okay. It could have been a lot worse, I will say. So I'm glad that it didn't delve into just spoofy territory, although it got pretty close when Thor imbued them all with the Zeus lightning bolt thunder, whatever he did. So there's that. And aside from that, it's a very self-contained film. The post-credit scenes have nothing to do with the MCU. It's really Thor 5 with Hercules, which I haven't seen Ted Lasso. I know I need to see Ted Lasso, but Brett Goldstein, I'm sure he'll do a great job as Hercules, and that'll be fun. Thor 5, Hercules versus Thor, I'm sure. And for me, the end credits scene is an indication with Jane and Valhalla and Heimdall that she's coming back, which is disappointing to me. I'm not trying to be sadistic, but I think that Jane's death was very appropriate for the film, and it should have stayed that way if Natalie Portman truly wanted to be done with the franchise. If she wanted to come back, you shouldn't have killed her off. I don't know. It feels a little cheap to me. Yeah, that's really the film. There's not a lot to it, and I think that just the fact that it wasn't as funny, and I think I had pretty significant problems with the pacing and the way that the film was constructed, make it a pretty decent MCU film, though not great. It's good. It's not great. And there are a lot of MCU films like that, which is, a little disappointing. I do think that I like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness a little bit more at this point in time. We'll see, though. We'll see where the ranking goes. So with that, I'm going to be taking some of your guys' questions. Thank you to the two of you who submitted the questions. I will pull them up right now. Let's see where they are. And where are they? I had them up somewhere. They're there. Okay. So again, if you guys want to submit questions, just keep an eye out on the community tab. And I'll be, I'm always posting polls and questions out there. So if you guys ever want to, do something there, respond, interact, I'm always out there. And yeah, so let's take a look here, shall we? Okay, first question from fellow YouTuber and good friend of the channel, Super Wise. Are you excited for Thor's future past Love and Thunder? I personally am. Sorry, I just got to get closer to the mic to read it. got to get closer to the mic to read the question. So if it's a little louder, I apologize. Anyways, I personally am Thor being a father and raising a child, a new arc for the character. Cannot wait for that dynamic. Thank you so much, Superwise, as always, for submitting a great question. Am I excited for Thor? This might be unpopular. I'm not going to say no, but I don't think I want to see another Thor film for a long time. I think the next time he shows up, I agree. Him being a father is a new way to take the character, and I think that's good. I think that'll be fun. I really do think that'll be fun. Whether or not it's India Hemsworth, his daughter, playing the character, who, I mean, I'm sure she was adorable, but I'm sure that they're going to recast the character and bring in probably a more experienced young actress to play the role, as they did with Cassie Lang. To much chagrin, I would add, by the MCU fans. But anyways, that's a different scenario, though. That's because we already got an older Cassie Lang in Endgame and recast her. But like, I don't think anyone, because they needed an older stature version of Cassie Lang. From the younger version, they brought in Catherine Newton. I'm sure that they'll do the same thing here if they're really doing Young Avengers. But anyways, am I excited for Thor post Love and Thunder? I'm gonna say that I love Thor as a character. I love Chris Hemsworth, and I think that I'll be ready to see him again in a Thor adventure at some point. But for now, I think that I just rather have him be in team up movies for the time being. I think that I've gotten my fill of Thor. I think that the best Thor has ever been was Infinity War and not Endgame, just Infinity War. I love Infinity War Thor. The emotional, brutal parts of Thor, but also the comedy and the jokes. I love that. So I think, I'll be excited to see a Thor versus Hercules movie if that ever happens, but I just don't know. I just don't know. I think that excitement is perhaps not the right word, but I'm satisfied, more than satisfied with Thor's arc in this film and where he will be going in the future. I think Chris Hemsworth will play Thor for a long, 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 long time. So there's that. Thank you, Superwise, again. And the next 4 questions, thank you for submitting all these questions, is from Chill Dude 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. And first question from Chill Dude 1, 2, 3. Do you think Thor's character has regressed? Let's see, to acting more like immature Thor. Sorry, the question keeps moving around. He came to overcome in his first solo movie. I don't think so. I think that there is a regression of the character of Thor from Infinity War onwards, but not to the point that it's the immature Thor from Thor 1. No. I think that the idea of Thor having a midlife crisis is funny, and I think it's appropriate. So I don't think it's a regression in that way. Like you being immature as a child versus you being immature in a midlife crisis are two different things, although they can have overlap. So I don't see it as a regression in that sense. I just see it more as a regression of I like the Infinity War Thor more, and I just don't think they've been able to recapture that sense. So that's what I think about that. Next question he thinks, from Chill Dude 1, 2, 3, is where do you generally rank this movie in Phase 4? That's a good question. In Phase 4 alone. To be honest with you, Phase 4 has not been the strongest for me. I think that there have been individual projects that have been really, really good. WandaVision. Not Loki, sorry, I didn't like Loki. Scratch that, I don't know why I said Loki. WandaVision, Eternals, Shang-Chi, Miss Marvel, really strong projects. And a lot of those projects are floating in the upper end. And then you have a lot of projects floating in the lower end. What If, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki. And then you have a few kind of just in the middle, Doctor Strange 2 and Hawkeye. And I think Thor Love and Thunder kind of fits in that range. Thor Love and Thunder kind of fits in that Doctor Strange 2 and Hawkeye realm. They're good. They're good. They're fun. But not transcending to the... I love Eternals, by the way. So not transcending to that kind of level of Eternal, Shang-Chi, and WandaVision, if that makes sense. Good question, though. Number 3 from Chill Dude 1, 2, 3. Did you like Jane as the Mighty Thor? Yes, I did. I think that if there was room for the character to grow, I would have liked to see more. I was more than happy to see her arc finished in this film. I'm a little bummed that they faked her death out again just as quickly in the post-credit scene. So, there's that. But was I a fan? Absolutely. I think Natalie Portman was the best that she had ever been in any of the Thor films. I really liked her in this film. And the final question from Chill Dude 1, 2, and 3. Were the Guardians of the Galaxy underused, or is it good they didn't overstay their welcome? And I've addressed this question already. It's a good question. I think they shouldn't have been in this film at all. I don't think that anything that they did in particular made them overstay their welcome. But I also think that they were not necessary to the story in the slightest. I think that I think that it's important to know when setup is set up within a movie and when it's just set up for another film. And I get it that he was with the Guardians after Thor, not Thor, Avengers and Endgame. But I think that it would have sufficed just to have them in a montage of Thor training and all that sort of stuff. Even just Thor lifting the Benatar was an implication that he was with the Guardians. I don't think they needed to be in this film at all. I don't. I'm not disappointed that they were. I think they were fine. But yeah, I don't think they needed to be in this film at all. So there's that. All right, guys, and that will do it for Thor: Love and Thunder. I thought the film was fine. I thought it was enjoyable. I'll probably rewatch it again when it comes out on Disney Plus, and that'll be that probably for a while. So that is it for Thor: Love and Thunder. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that as well. And with that, guys, we have reached the end of another Access Blockbusters pod. It has gone a little bit over an hour. I apologize for that. But again, it's fun to talk about these things with you guys. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. So if you guys have any thoughts, if you guys are disagreeing with me or agreeing with me, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. And yeah, next week will be probably a little bit quieter. Maybe I'll do a Q&A. Maybe I'll just make it a shorter episode. We'll see. Comic-Con. And then it'll be a much bigger episode, obviously. I'll try to cover everything from Comic-Con. And yeah, that'll do it for me from the Access Blockbusters YouTube channel. And thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you guys in the next one.